Andreas is the executive director of amvplus.com, an advisory that helps organizations and individuals to develop higher standards of leadership and create a higher purpose. Andreas is an NLP coach, a trainer, a TEDx speaker, and among the top 100 most inspirational LinkedIn icons. He's a multiple award winning marketing man with life and work experiences across the world and has guided many businesses and people to achieve exponential growth and success. In his tenure, he has built and managed several media agencies for Publis, Omnicom, WPP, and Havas, leading them to flagship positions in their respective markets. He was also the first non-Malaysian group CEO of Star Media Group. In 2020, amidst the worst pandemic in the recent history and a financial crisis, Andreas launched AMV Plus Advisory, specializing in coaching, training, and consulting, bringing in forefront extensive experience in strategic areas such as people development, business growth, purpose creation, leadership, and transformation. Andreas is a high honors advertising graduate. He has forged a life journey from Greece to New York and from Tokyo to Taiwan before making Malaysia his home since 2006. Over the years, he has served in numerous industry associations, several industry committees and board, many university advisory boards, and in multiple award juries. You can follow him on LinkedIn and learn more about amvplus.com. Ladies and gentlemen, we give you Andreas.
Wow. Lord Raj, thank you very much. I don't know what to say. You've said most of it. I was going to share my life journey, but I think you just did it. So that's it. Any question, guys? Let me share my screen. But before I do, it's a privilege to be here. And I took this job very seriously. So I put together quite a lot of things just to share with you. And I'll walk you through all of that. So hopefully that will be beneficial for everybody. Let me do this. And I think, can you see the screen? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Excellent. So let me just start. Like I said, it's a privilege. Thank you very much for making me part of this program. And I know that quite a few people from across the world are going to be watching this on your Facebook page. So for those of you who are in Greece or in Europe, it's good morning, probably. For some of you in different parts of the world, good evening. And for my Malaysian friends, good afternoon. Hopefully, everybody is safe, healthy, and very, very optimistic because we're going to do this and we're going to do this together. Of course, we're going to talk about leadership values, but it is all through the filter of a 55-year-old life journey. And I will share that with you. And please ask questions. If you have any burning question, by all means, you gotta stop me and ask me or save it for the end. Now, I have a warning before we start. I have a very difficult name to pronounce. It looks like that. It sounds like Vogiatzakis, but you can call me AV, just in terms of simplicity. Raj already said who I am. Just to let you know that I'm a Kampung boy from Crete in Greece. And I've been a math man, come to madman back in the 90s, falling in love with advertising. I ran plenty of companies across Asia, particularly in Japan, Taiwan, and for the last 16 years in Malaysia. And recently I launched my own advisory. Very interesting story, which I'll tell you in a minute. We don't really have any rules of engagement today. This is your session. I want you to have fun, grab a drink, and make sure you have your notes and your pens ready just in case you need to take notes. But you can ask me always, and I will make a brief summary of this for you. If anything is unclear, please stop me. Now, as we go through the next 45, 50 minutes, which I'll try to do, have 4 key questions in your mind, especially for the Rotary Fellows who are going to be tested on this. So what does this mean to you? I want you to think, what is leadership for you? Why is it important for you? What are your own values and principles that are going to guide you when you are at the crossroads? And when you look back, how would you describe your own journey? And what do you want to achieve? And most importantly, at the same time, all these learnings that you're going to put together, how do you use them to really move forward? If you really capture a couple of points for each of these questions, and I'll repeat them at the end, then you'd be absolutely spot on. So let's go back in time very quickly. Back in 1966, 55 years ago, I was born in the middle of Crete, an island in the middle of the Aegean Sea. And I know it sounds very idyllic, the blue, the white, the vineyards, the olive groves and all that. Let me tell you, it was not like that. I didn't like it. It was actually not fun gathering olives in the winter time. It's cold and it's muddy, maybe a little bit better for grape gathering in September, but we didn't have air conditions. We didn't have all the amenities and all the luxuries that we have today. Mom used to cook food in the outside in the open fire many times, and food would grow in the backyard, from vegetables to animals that we would really consume. It was not what it is today. We would get a pair of shoes a year, and we had to make sure that that lasts until next Easter or Christmas, that we would get the next pair. And mom had this cunning ability to convince us that if the food doesn't have that smoky flavor, that it's not really good, because of course, many times she had to cook outside in the open fire because gas was expensive. Elementary school was in black and white mode. No iPads, no phones, none of that, and none of the methods that we use today in order to teach and learn. It was a little bit rough on the edges sometimes, and yes, you get smacked quite a bit if you cannot recite the multiplication table correctly. But as they say, the influence of a good teacher really is irreplaceable. And I had the pleasure when I was in the 6th grade, I was 12 at that time, the year my father passed away, to have a teacher that introduced us to math. And I thought it was the best thing that have happened in life, vis-a-vis what was happening at the family at that time. And I fell in love with it, and I dedicated the next 6 years of my life to do exactly that. I wanted to be a math man. And my dream and my effort every single day for the next 6 years was to get into very prestigious mathematics university of Athens. That was one of the best schools, if not the best at that time in Greece. And guess what? I did, and I did in a good shade nationwide. And as soon as I did, and I realized what it is and how things can evolve, I didn't like it anymore. That was not really for me. I know I had dedicated 6 years of my life to do exactly that, and I did it and I accomplished it. But I realized that was not for me. So what did I do at the dismay of the family much later, because they didn't know at that time? I quit. I quit and I started searching for something else, but I didn't know what. I let my hair long. I formed a heavy metal band. It was complete disaster. We didn't get any groupies, for you who are wondering. We didn't even manage to give one bloody concert because the bass guitarist with the drummer got into a fight and a brawl. And so I had to work. I had to work on every possible job in order to sustain myself, because I did not want to be a burden to the family. Yes, I did mop floors and scrub doors because that's what I had to do to make sure that I pay the rent. And I was searching for what is my purpose? What is my vision? What do I really want to do with my life? Until one day, I had this horrible accident with my motorcycle at that time. I stayed in bed for a couple of months and I started watching a lot of TV, all that TV that I didn't have and I didn't watch when I was growing up in the village. And the penny dropped that day that I decided I want to do advertising in my life. And I fell in love with it, and I still am, and that's what I've been doing almost ever since. So I went all the way from Greece to the States to study advertising. I studied at Gulf Coast Community College and then graduated from the University of Florida. Mind you, high honors with a straight 4.0. And what is really important about that is not really the number, because it's just a number, but it was a dedication when I have found what I was looking for. It was not the same with math. I dropped out because I was not in love with it anymore. And I found what I really wanted to do with my life. And that's exactly what led to it. So Graduated from University of Florida and landed a job in the amazing New York on Madison Avenue, which was the mecca of advertising at that time. It was the mad days. And for those of you, I'm pretty sure Carthy will remember, it was the Mad Men on TV describing all this advertising community, and it was magical. Big Apple was just amazing. And really, life has been a great journey up to that time for me. And so who would have thought, from a small village in Crete all the way to this amazing metropolis, New York, and after that, spending a few years back home, getting all the way to Tokyo, where I spent 5 years, and then to Taiwan for another 5, and for the last 16 years in amazing Malaysia, that is now my home. Now that journey, as incredible as it might sound, and it's not that special because everybody has a story to tell, it was not always an easy feat. I landed in Asia in 97, and it was smack in the middle of the Asia financial crisis. Not really easy to build business and create success. And when I was in Taiwan, SARS hit, and it was yet another hurdle. Of course, we know what happened in 2008. I was just 2 years in Malaysia, and another financial meltdown happened. And of course, we all know what happened last year, which is the year that I also left Star to launch my own business. So along the way, it was a rough journey. I lost it twice, I built it twice, and here I am doing it all over again, which I'll tell you the story in a bit, for AMV Plus. So Steve Jobs said that you connect the dots looking backward, and it's true, because we will never be able to understand what the future will bring. We can always look back and try to make sense out of it. And only then we realize what really happened to us and how we can become better. Many times people ask me about the key values that really guided me along the way throughout my journey so far. And most importantly, the values that will help me build further on what I'm doing right now. And mind you, I never really started my life by thinking, oh, I have these 2 values and they will guide me. It never happened that way. It never does. And now looking back to connect the dots, I realized that these were the 2 key values that helped me be successful and weather all the storms, from SARS to financials and now COVID and another financial crisis. The first one was resilience. And it's very, very important to really have that. And if you think that can be important to you, how can you really embrace it and let it guide your life? And the second one is like water, is like Bruce Lee said about water, adaptability. Really taking in what happens to us and managing how we react to it and how we make the best out of it. As they say, we cannot control what happens, but we always can control how we react to situations. But of course, it was more than just resilience and adaptability. And when I look back, I can list, and I will list for you, many of these values and principles that I realized guided me and I learned along the way. And no university or high school book ever had a chapter on them that really can talk about it. Thank God today you can Google every single one of them and you can find tons of information to learn, absorb, and make it beneficial for you. But back then it wasn't. Google didn't exist. So without any particular order, I just will blabber them all for you, and hopefully you can pick up the ones that are more relevant for you and the ones that you think are going to guide you along the way in your own journey. You can Google for an answer, you can Google for an ad and a job, but you will never be able to find there your passion. Passion, you're going to find it within your heart. And when you do, don't be afraid to really quit something you're doing in order to drive what it is in your heart. And you got to believe in yourself when you do that. You got to believe that you are the greatest, like Muhammad Ali did, and change the history as we know it. And you have to do that with humbleness, because humility does not mean you will think less of yourself, but it will mean that you think of yourself less and you put the others first. You gotta seek first to understand and then to be understood, because I guarantee you for this, people don't really care how much we know until they know how much we care. In Taiwan, they taught me this, and I'm grateful that they did. For those of you who read Chinese, you'll know that this means something like, in order to lead people, you need to lead their heart first, and everything starts from there. And it is very, very true. And in that journey of yours, you got to dream big. You got to reach for the stars. Leo Burnett started his company back in the Big Depression in the States. And he said that I have to reach for the stars. When we reach for the stars, we might not get one, but we will not come down with a handful of mud either. And it is absolutely true. We have to have that courage in that journey and fighting strife and hurdles. That courage to fail if we have to, because we need to learn how to fail, or we will fail to learn. And we got to get up and do it all over again. This one is my favorite because many times I fought it. I fought it hard. And many times I even now catch myself say, but life is not fair. Why is this happening to me? Why is it happening to other people and not to me? Life, guys, is not fair. And you got to go and fight it. You got to go and fight it. And you got to go and tell the world what you are worth. You got to tell your story, and you got to tell it the way it is. And you got to do that with humility. That doesn't mean you're arrogant. It means that you fight for what you deserve, because life is not fair. You got to love it. Love everything you do, what you do, where you do it, who you're doing it with, and who you're doing it for. And if you don't, it's okay. You got to leave it, and you got to do what you truly love. You love it, you change it, or you leave it. Three options that you have in any given situation with what you do. So be who you really are and love what you do, and believe that you can. If you believe you can or you cannot, you're absolutely right. It's all up in the mind. And if you can dream it, you can do it. And you have to believe you can, because you can. And that's my favorite Malaysia word of all times. It's can. And just to make sure that you have no doubt in your mind, I put many of them on the screen to make sure that you don't forget. Impossible is possible. And we have to remember that, even though it sounds like a cliche, but it's not. Because when you're down, when you're on your knees, and when you have to find that strength to get back up, you got to remember that. Impossible is a three-letter word. I am possible. And then if you see a dot on the screen, don't do that, but instead look at the beautiful white canvas that is going to be your canvas to draw, and your canvas to write your dreams, write your goal, and go at them. Sometimes the impossible is the untried, and we have to think different in order to succeed. I want you to meet Gary. A few years back, a friend of mine sent me all these series of pictures, and I thought, well, I'll use them one day, and here it is. Gary is a nice little snail who's trying to really cross that bridge that a task seems impossible, but if you really watch him and how he tries, you can see how he actually does it. Impossible is nothing. We will never give up, and we need to embrace change. Now, you've heard a lot of things about change. One of my favorites is Alvin Toffler. In his book back then, he wrote that a literate of the 21st century is not going to be the one who cannot read and write, but the one who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Embracing change. Like Darwin said, it's not really the strongest that survive, but the ones that are responsive to change. And my take on this is this: change is a bend on the road, and if we don't take it, we might fall off the cliff. So the choice is really ours. Now, to succeed in change, and life will bring you plenty of opportunities to do that, you will need two qualities that I think are very, very important. First, strength. It's that kiasunes in us, that belief that I will never give up and I will keep on trying until I really, really do it. And the second is character. It is your character, it is your values, and that is revealed by everything you do, even when no one is looking. Like a bunch of chopsticks, as the Chinese say, you can break one, but you cannot break a bundle. Create collaborations, create togetherness, and work in synergy. That will really be important, because that is the power of we. The power of we is so much stronger than the power of me. And I say this because I see it so many times on individuals, on teams that do not really work very well together. And the choice is really ours on how to see it. It is the we, not the I, and it's up to us on how we can turn the M to W. And it will really guide our journey, because we represent our company, we own it, we are responsible, we can make a difference, and each one of us can be the ambassador that can lead our team, ourselves, and our company to greatness. And we don't want to be that weak link. And we need to really look at it and how to make it better. We talked about the bunch of chopsticks that are unbreakable, but it has to start with every single chopstick. And every single chopstick, which starts with us, now we go back to me, has to make sure that it is strong. It has the right values and it has the right focus and the right purpose. And then we do it together. Remember, I've seen this a million times over, and I can't tell you how true it is. I can tell you stories after this speech all you want, and they're all true. What sinks the ship is the water inside, not outside. And so we need to keep the competition, all the quarrels, all the fight, and all that non-cooperation and togetherness outside. I've been so far in my life blessed to live and work in 3 continents and 6 countries. And I gathered along the way the 3 Ps and the 6 Cs. And I'll walk you through for the 3 Ps first. Hey Ueno, one of my bosses and a sensei for me back in Japan, said, Andreas, you got to put together people, product, and profits. That's the success triptych when it comes to a company that wants to be successful. But the secret is that you have to make sure that they come in that order. You got to put people first, not the product, not the profit. And I see that so many times, and it applies to us as individuals. When we start our own jobs, our own companies, when we change jobs, are we asking first about the money, or is it about what difference we're going to make to us and to the company that we are working for? People, product, profit, in that order is a secret success recipe for any successful individual and company, because it's people who can think of smart ideas, who can execute them, who can imagine, but at the same time, it is also people who are responsible for what happens, responsible for their companies and themselves and their teams. So with that power comes the responsibility and accountability of the individual. And then we go to the 6 Cs. It is all about communication, cooperation, compromise, clarity, and care. And they are fundamental principles of how we can lead our life and how we can become successful. And these principles, to practice them constantly. That will really take us further in a much, much successful way. When it comes to the places that are worth going and that we want to get to, there are no shortcuts. We have to pay our dues, and there is no other way. Like I say many times, everybody wants to go to paradise, but nobody wants to die. There isn't any other way. And like my late brother-in-law used to tell me, you gotta put your head down, put your butt up and work hard. Start low, aim high, focus on doing what you love and do that very well. And I guarantee you that fame and money will come without any question. And in that journey, have integrity. It is very difficult, and you will come to the crossroads many times, and you will have to take decisions that in the first thought might seem like they will jeopardize your well-being or your standing. Ego will get in the middle. So how will make your integrity really get on the way and guide you when you are at the crossroads? Perhaps the most important value and attribute of them all is this one, and please never forget it. And when you get there and enjoy your success, think of the persons that helped you to get there. Think of the person who planted the tree. Appreciate and give back. Because like my mom used to say, where you are, I was, and where I am, you will arrive. And everything then, when you look back and connect the dots, gets a very, very different meaning. Make sure that the buck will stop at your desk and you will be responsible and you will sweat the small stuff. In fact, you will sweat everything to make a difference. Make sure that this is not the award that you will win, but you will make that difference and will never do that. Say that if it's to be, it's up to me. And if you remember anything in this presentation, please do remember that. If it's to be, it's up to me, and I will be responsible. I will make sure that things do happen. Like my late friend Jeff Lee told me once, AV, everywhere I go, I take my PDA with me. And I said, Jeff, what is your PDA? My passion, my discipline, and my action. And mind you, it is very easy to be passionate about something and take action, but very, very difficult to put the discipline in it and make sure that what you do is the right thing with integrity and with love. So what? Lots of stuff, lots of values, lots to learn. Why is this all very so important? It is because it leads to leadership. Now, I will take a quick test, a quick quiz, and tell me if it's true or false. And I think you know the answer. Great leaders are not born, are not made, they are born. Leadership skills come just like that. They're innate and not acquired. And leadership is about the end goal and not the journey itself. Of course, it's all false because leadership is not genetic, it's not vested. Leadership is earned. And effective leaders are first and foremost effective people. They have a high degree of personal ethics, high energy, they walk the talk, they have the courage to take risks, accept responsibility, they're dedicated, they're creative, they're focused, and they're very, very clear. They have clarity, which is incredibly critical. They are genuinely enthusiastic, they are inspired, they get excited, they're passionate, and because of that, they're also inspiring others. They're very cool under pressure, so they stay like that and they take the right decisions. They have empathy and care. Remember, first we need to care for others, to care about what we have to say, and they have purpose. I love Steve Covey, and it's my manual for many, many years. His books are amazing, and I will run through very quickly the 8 great habits of highly successful leaders. And you can find this on Google, and please read it if you haven't done that already. He talks about being proactive. Change starts from within. Like I said, if it's to be, it's up to me. He said that begin with the end in your mind. You have a vision, you have a goal, and then you outline the way to really get there. Put first things first, prioritize, identify the key roles that you take on in life, and then make sure that you go at it, but you have to prioritize and be clear. Think win-win. In life, there are no win-lose situations. It's either win-win or lose-lose. And in the long run, that is absolutely true. So like he says, do not undermine others for personal gain. We talked about integrity, and here is a way, in this case, on thinking win-win to apply it. Seek first to understand and then be understood. We have to care first in order to really make an impact on others, and we have to synergize. We are only as strong as the weakest link, and we have to create these collaborations to succeed. Talked about sharpening the saw, and Alvin Toffler put it differently: learn, unlearn, and relearn. Balance all aspects of life and make sure we learn new tricks, especially in this fast changing, technologically advanced world. And finally, he tells us to find our voice and inspire others to find theirs. And that is very important. When you arrive there, look back and appreciate, and make sure that you pay it forward and in your terms, inspire others to be great leaders as you are. And hopefully that leads to self-awareness. And I think that's very, very important because that really builds the leader in you, which is critical. I think that for us, in order to succeed in our goals, first and foremost, we need to be the leaders of our own life. And we, as the architects of our lives, will become the conductors of our own life orchestra. Now, a leader to me for my own life is exactly like that, like a conductor in the orchestra. Have you ever wondered that the conductor is the only one who doesn't make any sound, and yet without him or her, there is no music, and he becomes part of the music itself. And it's very, very critical to realize that. How do we conduct our lives, and what difference do we make for ourselves and for the others? So let's be the conductor of our own life, and inspire others as well as ourselves. But how, you might ask? How can we do that? We can do that by setting up a vision, by setting up our mission, and by outlining the values that are going to be critical for our journey. And don't be afraid if your vision is going to change 5 years down the line. Remember, I quit math because I realized that my vision changed. And my mission was to really achieve that once I fell in love with advertising. Vision is going to be pretty much a purpose. It's going to give you direction and focus for what you really need to do. It's going to be your ikigai. And it's going to combine all these elements that are going to enable you to take the right journey and the right path in order to achieve and materialize your vision and your purpose. Your mission is going to be the roadmap that is going to help you to arrive there. And most importantly, your values are going to describe your attitude. It's going to be your guide on how you behave and what you do. And when you come to the crossroads where you will have to take tough decisions, your values and your principles are going to be the ones that are going to guide you and are going to help you to make these right decisions that are going to help you achieve your purpose. I'll give you the brief story of what I did last year with AMV Plus. And it was a tough year. Um, it was the year of the pandemic where with a lot of passion and a determination, I launched AMV Plus, incorporated in Malaysia to make a difference. Um, it was the worst of times, and it still is, and it's not easy. But when you are committed, and I am, that's what really needs to happen. I thought that now more than ever before, the world needs help, and we need help to really outline our vision, to outline our passion, to really develop the leader in us, and to really instill these values, courage, determination, and resilience that will help us get there. So for AMV Plus, I thought being a catalyst for positive change is what it is, in order to help companies to build better leaders, to drive transformation, and to create their own purpose. And I would do that through coaching, training, and consulting. And in that, I would be guided by values that would apply to how I treat and manage my clients the same way I do it for myself, with a lot of love, with a lot of determination, expertise, and knowledge. So hopefully you understand what now vision, mission, and values are briefly. Long time ago, they asked Woody Allen, what is the secret of success? And he said, turn up, and you did. And that is the absolute first step. So I put a lot of things on your plate to think about, and I will put some more. What we talk, we need to be ready to walk. And we have to listen to ourselves, listen to our hearts, listen to where our passion lies and the people around us to become better. And when we are that leader of our lives, and we are that leader of our teams and our companies, we have to lead by example. One great book that I highly recommend, apart from Steve Covey's books, are this one, The Leader Who Had No Titles. Leadership is not really about the position you hold. It's not about the chair you sit on. It is about that internal guide that leads you to excellence based on everything that we have talked about so far. So hopefully all that makes sense. And I actually managed to cover more in less time. So I have a final thought for you. And it is about thoughts who become words and words who become actions, actions that become habits and habits that become character, and our character that becomes our destiny, as they say. I don't know who said that, but it is absolutely true. And all that boils down to our attitude. How do we see things? What is our attitude? And like a great man said once, it is our attitude that will give us altitude. It's not our aptitude. It is not really about skills and about knowledge. It is about attitude. In my life, in 3 continents and 6 countries, working, living, building companies, making a lot of mistakes, having a lot of failures, I also hired a lot of people. And I can tell you without any doubt, the first quality that I was always looking at them was their attitude to everything, to life, to the new job they're going to get, to other people around them, to teams that they belonged in. And I would ask questions to dig about and understand their attitude to different things. It was not necessarily their skills and their knowledge. That's a given. It's almost like the 3 pillars of meaningfulness. It's being functional. If I hire somebody to be a programmatic trader, I presume that they would know how to do programmatic, but do they have the right attitude to really work together with other people? So skills and knowledge could be definitely a given, but attitude is not, because attitude is mostly shaped by what happens to your life and how you react to it. It is by your decisions to also look back and see what works, what do you need to adjust, learn from your failures, and do the right thing moving forward. There is not such a thing as a failure, actually. It's all about knowledge, as long as you treat it like that and you build your life based on it. So I've seen this video and I want to share it with you because I do with a few people, and it talks about attitude, skills, and knowledge. Take a look, and then we talk about that a little.
There are three things in life that makes the person successful. One is the knowledge the person has, the skills he develops, and the attitude he has. It can be demonstrated by a very simple experiment of balancing the two heavy stainless steel forks on the edge of the glass. One fork represents the knowledge the person has. The another represents the skill a person needs to possess. And then knowledge and skills are individual to the person. They live with him and die with him. They cannot be passed on. But they can be connected to the society or the organization through another agency called as the toothpick. If you can see, the forks are hanging free on the edge of the glass with a toothpick. If you see, 3/4 of the toothpick is outside the glass, a small portion is inside the glass. Now what should happen if I burn the toothpick from inside? Watch carefully. I start burning this toothpick. What normally people expect is, as the toothpick burns, the wood burns and the whole fork should fall down. It would not happen. I can take another matchstick. I'll try to burn it. The inside of the toothpick. Not two. Even if you take 20 matchsticks, it will not burn beyond that. If you observe carefully, the toothpick is balancing on the edge of the glass, which is not even 1 millimeter thick. Two heavy forks are balancing on that. This is most important to us. Your knowledge and skills are important, but what is most important is the attitude which connects you to society and your organization. Among the three things that I have, glass, fork and toothpick. Toothpick is fragile, it can be burnt. That means in your life your attitude is more tested than your knowledge and skills. If your attitude is firm, in spite of being burned several times, it will not drop your knowledge and skills. Please watch carefully. I slowly lift the glass up now. You can see. Still knowledge and skills are held together by the attitude. Now I push the attitude out. When I push the attitude out, the knowledge and skills also fall down. Therefore, the most important aspect in life for success is not the knowledge, not just the skills. It is the attitude a person carries. Ultimately, that holds him in difficult times and make him successful in good times.
I love that video, and I hope it really exemplifies it for you as it does for me, how important that attitude is. I see it all the time, and I see it also in me. The moments that I approach something that happens the wrong way, and my attitude is not the right one, the one that is suffering and the one that is losing is me, nobody else. So the attitude that you have, the attitude you develop, your character, remember, that will give you really strength to succeed when things are not that easy and they come tough in life. I put a lot of things in your head, hopefully, on the table. I threw a lot of points at you that hopefully some will stick and some won't. But I want you to think again, the 4 key takeaways out of everything that I shared with you so far. And back to the same 4 questions. With everything that I shared, try to answer these and try to see what sticks and what remains with you. What is leadership for you and why is it important? What is it going to do to your life and how is it going to really help you to achieve your goals and your vision? What are your own values and your principles to guide you when you're at the crossroads, when you have difficult and not easy decisions to take? How are you going to do that? And when you arrive somewhere and when you are at a point that you really need to learn from your own successes and failures in life, when you look back, how can you describe your own journey and your own attitude and how you're going to pay it forward? How can you really apply everything that you learn, especially sometimes from your mistakes, in order to make it worthwhile and in order to build your journey ahead? Like I said, if it's to be, it's up to me. And that I want you to remember, because that will put you on the driver's seat to really take control of what happens instead of passing the buck to somebody else. So how can we then change our attitude? How can we change our mindset to really learn and do all these things that a leader needs to do in order to be successful? So lots of things that you, my friends, I try to really describe the leader in you. I try to describe the leader in me, which I'm striving for every single day, especially now that I'm building my own company. And so I'm going to end it by saying, please stay focused and work hard. Please leverage the present and never, never lose your faith. Stay in the game, because as long as we are in it, then we can fight one more time. Never give up, never settle for less, dream big, like Leo Burnett said, and live the present to the fullest. Set the world on fire and give that rock and roll concert that I never did to the world to be really happy and move from good to great. So that's it. That's all I had to really share. Thank you. And I thought it would be better to have, we're almost there, to have time for questions and anything that you really want to elaborate on. Sounds all right? I'll stop sharing, Raj.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Andreas. That was fantastic. So, as you say, let's go to the questions. We have a few at the chat window.
I'll try to see, but shall I leave you to pick?
No, we will address all the questions.
All right.
Yeah. The first one, which is the most important to the organization? Mission, core values, or vision? From Shirley.
Excellent question. Excellent question, Shirley. Um, I think without any doubt, while everything is important and you cannot have this beautiful car run without a steering wheel, you need everything. But by right, you need the engine to be top notch. And so for me, perhaps the most important thing is the purpose. What is your vision? What do you stand for? Your purpose is going to guide you and is going to really give a reason for others to believe. Um, Simon Sinek said that the most important element for being a leader is to have followers. And it's true. And for people to really follow you and to be with you, they don't really care except one thing. It's your why, it's your purpose. Why are you here? What are you here to do? So everything is important, and you cannot really achieve your purpose if you're not guided by the right values. But purpose is also going to give substance to your values as well. You cannot have a purpose to bring goodness and happiness to the world, but you will not operate with integrity, and you will be a crook. It doesn't happen that way. So everything needs to be aligned. But by right, it has to start with a purpose. It has to start with your why. Who are you? What do you do? And why do you do it? Make sense?
Yeah, she's smiling. So,
So
well, well
I
answered,
replied
Andreas.
right. Okay.
Well answered. And Shirley also asked, what is the one mistake you witness leaders making more frequent than the other? The most
Uh,
popular mistakes.
yeah. Many.
Give us a
And
top 10, maybe.
and I've done it all, but one of the biggest ones is, instead of allowing others to speak first, they end up speaking first. And that does a lot of bad things. First of all, it doesn't give you perspective of what the others think and what's in their mind, what are their views. Number two, it does give them, and that might not be your intention, but it gives them a very false sense of how you value them. You speak first, right? Number three, depending on your relationship, they might be then intimidated to fully disclose what their thoughts are. And so you, as a leader, end up losing out, right? So that mistake happens a lot. Sometimes it's driven by ego and by the way leaders perceive themselves to be. Um, Mind you that if you are put in a leadership position, that necessarily does not make you a leader, because you are a leader in the hearts and minds of the ones you lead. And if they don't think you are, you're not. You might think you are. So I want to make that caveat. So listening, deep listening, active listening is by far one of the best qualities that you can have. And that's a mistake that many times people, leaders do. Not really listening to their team members first. It's the same story that Mandela has said many times. He grew up in a tribe, and his father was a tribe leader, and he was sitting there in the meetings with him, watching, and he would watch his dad do exactly that. He would first let everybody speak before he would really speak, and that was not because he had to have the final word, so to speak, but it was about him understanding the different perspectives and being able to make a better judgment. It's almost like information, right? How can you make the right decision if you don't really have all the information at your fingertips in order to enable you to judge properly? Same thing. So for me, that would be one of the by far biggest. Then we can talk about empathy, then we can talk about care, then we can talk about being inspirational, and how you as a leader really need to conduct yourself. I'm coaching a group of very senior people at the moment, and one of their challenges is that their leader, their CEO, thinks he's a good leader, and while he's a good person, they don't think he is a good leader, and they want to see how he will be like that. And exactly what I shared with you are exactly the qualities that would make that person a fantastic leader if he would change his mindset. And of course, to just top it all up, one of the biggest mistakes is to not be self-aware and to therefore let our ego drive our actions. And it's very, very, very easy to do that. And it's very, very, very difficult to make sure that when we get into the team meeting and into every action that we take, we leave our ego out of the door. Very difficult.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Andreas. And Parashina, she wants to ask a question and she wants to ask herself. You can unmute. All
Hi,
right. Go
Mr.
on.
AB. How are you? Hope you're good.
Hi.
So, me and my friends, we often interact with each other, and we always have like open conversations and discussions about attitudes and principles of life. So, recently we got into a discussion on how people's attitude influence their mindset and outlook towards life. And there was once somebody told me, if you don't achieve your goals, that means that you don't want it bad enough. And my friend and I, we came up with a conclusion that, well, it's probably not their attitude. It's probably their, their view and their commitment towards that particular goal. And I just wanted to know what your view is on this.
Thank you for sharing that. Great question. Um, if your goal is your goal, and if your goal is the one that you set and you love,
Mhm.
and that's what you really want, you're going to achieve it. And you're going to do whatever it takes to achieve it. If it's not your goal, if it's somebody else's goal, if you don't believe in it, if it doesn't make you happy, if that's not yours, you will find every possible excuse to procrastinate, to not do it, to give any reason for failure. If it is yours, there is no doubt in my mind, 100 perfect 100%, you will achieve it. You will find a way to do it. I've done both. And many times I thought that was my goal, because sometimes that's what others expect of you, or others want you to do, right? And on the surface, you think it is, but deep inside, it's not. This is not really for you. And so when that happens and you're not self-aware of what's going on, you will find excuses. You will not achieve that goal and you will blame it somewhere else. Everything that I shared with you, I didn't take it off the textbook, or I Googled it and I put it together. I might change the sequence every time I share with different people, all of these things that I share with you today, but they all came out of my own experience, the bad, the good, and the ugly, right? And when I said about looking in your heart to find what you're passionate about, to love what you do, and not be afraid to really leave what you don't love anymore and do what you love at any stage in your life. That's exactly what I mean. Everybody thought I was in the math university. Not very proud of it, on how I made my mom feel at that time, but it was horrible. 3 years later, they all thought that I'm just about ready to graduate, one more year. I've never stepped in one class for 3 years. I was just a rebel. And was that bad? That's not what I really wanted. I'm writing a book, by the way, and you'll find out the true story behind that when I publish it this year. But it wasn't for me. And so, to be fair and to be very honest on this one, I didn't wake up one day and I said, okay, this is not my goal. My goal is this, advertising, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to quit this. That is not mine anymore. I'm going to do that. It didn't happen that way. What actually happened is that I quit it, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I start scraping bottom. And when I arrived at a place and at a position that I didn't know anymore what to do, and I was a little bit desperate, then it dawned on me. And sometimes that pressure will really determine that. Hopefully not. Back to your point, I hope it makes sense. And if you look back to everything that I talked about, it gives you the answers from many different angles. Yeah. If it is really your goal and nobody else's, even if you didn't set it up, but somebody else did, and you truly, honestly believe that is the right thing to do, you will find a way to do it. If you don't think so, every excuse will come along the way and will distract you, and you will never really do it, or you will partially do it just to tick the box. Now, last one on this question, which I think is great. Sometimes it might not be your goal, but you have to do it because it's your job, because you need it, because not all the time we only do things we absolutely love. Life is not like that. Remember, I said life is not fair, so take it or leave it. So sometimes you need to force yourself to love something because you cannot leave it and because you cannot change it. So you need to really adjust and have a different perspective in order to be successful. Does that make sense? But primarily, if it's yours, you find a way to do it.
All right. The next two questions is about what you have done from Joshua and Ravina. But I'm going to combine that question because it's quite similar.
Okay.
They were asking about you started AMV during the pandemic, right? So they feel that it's a very brave thing to do. So they want you to share, how did you overcome that fear of failing, or what motivated you? You know, when everyone is backing off and trying to have a safe spot, but you there went in and you converted a crisis into opportunity. So they want you to share what was your thought process, what motivated you into doing that.
I sat on my butt for 2 months debating it and doing nothing. I left the Star at the end of May, and June, July found me thinking about it and thinking about it. And AMV Plus has been something in the back of my mind for a long time. I am a certified professional executive coach. I'm an NLP practitioner. I'm a certified trainer. I do these things. I do coaching throughout the years. I believe in it. And I always thought about doing that. I never did because I had a corporate job, because everything was working. And then I didn't really have to do it. This links to my answer in the previous question, right? So I was sitting on it for 2 months, debating with myself if I should register the company or not, if I should really launch it or not, if I should wait for another month for another headhunter to call me for a corporate job. And I think that the circumstances end up working for me because they pushed me to that corner. And one day I had to face myself in the mirror in the morning and say, okay, enough. Now it's time to cut all this BS and do what you really, really need to do. No more excuses, no more delays. If you really want to walk the talk, and if you really want to be the one that you tell others to be, then this is the time that you're going to do it. I was scared like never before. I still am. I don't know what tomorrow will bring. The whole situation has crippled everybody. ENV Plus is developing, is progressing. There are projects in every pillar that I set, coaching and training and consulting. Could be better, but it could be zero. So a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, but at the end of the day, it is about what you want to really look at, to really drive your actions. If it is, like I said, fear and greed are both incredible and necessary elements to success, right? But it's the balance that really happens. If you have absolutely zero fear and only greed and you just go at it, you might do something silly and you might not really calculate the potential hurdles that you might have to face with. If it is only fear or the fear really rules your actions, then you will never do it. And you will feel even more miserable while you're not doing it. So for me, it was that time to find the right balance, to really kick myself in the butt and really push myself and say, if you want to be that right leader that you tell other people to be, then you have to do it for yourself. So I woke up one day and I said, okay, I'm going to register the company. And the moment that I got the registration on my hands on August 10 last year, completely changed. And the journey started. And then now I can look back and I can say all these things. But I can tell you for June and July, while I was really in that hurdle to do, not do, how to do, what to do, is it going to be good, is it going to be bad? Sometimes if you don't try, you'll never know. If you don't ask, you will never get. And so that's exactly what really happened. What will happen tomorrow? I have no idea. But at least now I can look back and say, okay, I managed my fear. I managed my anxiety on how this can work out. And at least I start learning. Let me tell you that I have done 1,000,000+1 mistakes since August last year that I launched the company. A lot. And there are a lot of other things that I should have been doing, but I'm still debating with myself. And I learn as I go along. Like I said, we either learn to fail or we fail to learn. And so unless that, nobody's perfect. And nobody has the blueprint to be successful from day one. These things don't exist, especially under tough circumstances like that. So you gotta try, you got to learn from everything you do, and you gotta do it again. And next time is going to be even better. And I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. That's to tell yourself to do it, then you got to do it. Yeah? So next question is about adaptability. And Sharon Tanusha, she has calculated your journey across 3 continents and 6 countries. Yeah? And her question is, did you have to unlearn and relearn any part of the leadership to adapt to the local culture? So she wants you to share some examples. Like one, I can tell one on your behalf. He has got that la. So in Malaysia, he adapted to that. How about the other countries?
Yeah, that's right. I landed in Japan in 1997, and what I know today was definitely not what I knew back then. And I was blessed and armed without me knowing, actually, with all these values that my mom and my family used to inculcate in me when I was growing up in the village. Because mind you, we didn't have TV and air conditions, but it was a very strong belief in the family and the values and how you're brought up to be respectful. I had also the blessing to be in a family that was quite multinational. My two sisters, much older than me, that were not there when I was growing up. They were in the big city. They married from overseas, both of them. And so it was a very different understanding in the family, which was good. But I arrived in Asia not really knowing. And I learned along the way by being respectful, following what my mom told me before I left. And she said, when you go where you go, talk about the place you are, not the place you came from. And that was one of the biggest teachings that I will never forget. Meaning, be respectful with the person you are with and try to be and understand their points of view. And by doing that, the doors opened. I never had sushi in my life. I'm Greek. We grill the fish and we put olive oil and lemon and some oregano on it. We don't eat it raw. And I went to Japan and it was raw. And I thought, my goodness, how am I going to do that? But you do that. And now, of course, if a week passes by and I don't have my fair share of sushi, I can't really stand it, right? But that's how life is. So I think it is about being respectful and adapting what you get into. I see this on many, many people who get into a company. And the first thing that they do when they get in the new team, they tend to tell them, oh, this is how I used to do it. And they reply, oh, but that's how we do it. And immediately you can see the energy dropping. Instead of them saying, how do you do this? Let me see your point of view. So I think that adaptation to the point of view of the place you are at is the most important thing. I went to Taiwan, and this is a true story. So I said this many times actually, and I thought, very simple. It's nothing really amazing like the 8 values of a great leader from Steve Covey, but it's real. And I used to say to the guys, hey, hi, how's it going? Are you busy? And I used to say that because I came from a culture in Japan that was a good thing. Okay, it was not a bad thing. Until one young chap stalked me at the bathroom and he said, boss, please don't say that, because if you say that, it makes me feel anxious that I'm not doing enough to really do a good job. Instead, just ask me how I am. And it was for them more about the family and being a family figure head rather than anything else. And it was an interesting realization for me, which I did adopt and which did work. And it's as simple as that. Sometimes we become presumptuous, not because we're necessarily bad, but because we're not really fully self-aware. And we sometimes fail to ask if what we do resonates with the others. I think that's something that we can always do. Ask, does this make sense? Find your trusted advisors as a leader, as a CEO, as anyone, and ask them, am I doing it right? Is my approach correct? The problem is that this requires a lot of vulnerability and a lot of courage to do. And unfortunately, we are trained in society not to be like that. We shouldn't be vulnerable, especially if you're a leader. You cannot ask stuff like that. You know it all. You are there, the man of power, the woman in charge. And it takes courage to ask someone, hey, I don't know, am I doing it right? But that will take us a long way.
But do you prepare before you land in a new country? Do you like speak to anyone, or do you Google up?
Well, at that time, Google was, how can I say, we're talking 1997.
Yahoo then.
I talked to my colleagues who had no idea. I talked to some of my friends in the States where I studied who had some idea. And I had this image from some of my Asian friends in school, but not more and much more than that, really. So I was just doing, as I was going along, right? I'll tell you another true story. And when I arrived in Japan, Of course, all was new, amazing, incredible. I was learning every day. But for the first month or so, nothing was happening at the office. I was supposed to be the media director to launch the media unit of the company, and they would refuse to give me any work. The same person who would take me for a beer and ramen and sushi for dinner after work, the same person would not give me any work to touch. And I would not really understand why, until one day I realized that it was from some other people that went there thinking with the attitude, I'm here to teach you something. You people don't know, and let me tell you what to do. And so they looked down on them. And therefore they perceived, without even them knowing who I am, that I am one of the same. And it took me, the onus was on me to really ensure that they understand I'm not like that. And the moment they saw me doing even copying, and doing everything possible, things start changing. It was a true story. And it was not because I didn't respect the culture or the way they were doing things, but there was that gap of understanding. And it was up to me to really correct that, not up to them.
All right, all right. Kai Xiang got a question. His question is how to convince team member and how to inspire. I think the better question is, do you convince or inspire your team members to do the work, right?
Right. That's a great question. And if you are like a team leader, for example, and you need to complete a task by a certain time in a certain way, and that might not be negotiable, and your team is not really following, how can you do? Um, Sometimes you have the luxury of time to really build the the rapport and build that connection within teams and behave as a leader should in order to be followed. And sometimes you don't have the luxury of time to do that. But it all boils down and back to what kind of a character are you? And teams don't develop out of the blue. People belong in the same company and they know who are you, what kind of a character are you. If you have all these silent followers, they will follow you when you are the team leader. If your behavior and interaction with them denotes not that, then obviously you're going to find resistance, right? There are lots to say about teams and about characteristics of teams, but at the end of the day, people do things when they know what that leads to. And sometimes they don't really. You know, the what's in it for me factor. So if I do this in our team, what's in it for me? What am I going to gain as an individual? The heck with the next one. I want to know for myself. And I think that your role then as a leader will be to really make them understand what's in it for them and how what they do is going to have such a positive impact in the final outcome and where that leads to, right? And of course, it is then about you being inspiring. And I can talk an hour about what that takes and entails. But think about your actions. Are you that kind leader that has all these qualities that we talked about, and you can inspire others? So it's about them knowing what do they contribute to, and what does that do to the organization that it belongs that they belong to.
Yeah. Uh, as we are still with team members, I think you're gonna like. I love this question. Daniel Tangaraj, he asked, what are the most common signs from your team members to say that your leadership style is ineffective and there is a need to change? What
When
are,
you start running, that's a fantastic question. When you start running and you look back and there is no back there, no one there. When you ask people to do something and they don't. When they look at you like rolling their eyes up and you know they're not going to do it. Um, I guarantee you, you will know immediately. Now, I've seen many bad leaders. They're not leaders at all. They are just in a position because they were assigned, right? And sometimes it also depends at what stage in their life people will be. Like I said, you have three options at any given time in any given situation. You love it, you change it, or you leave it. That's it, right? But you might be at a position where you need that job. You cannot quit it. You cannot change it. Okay. And it might be, at least temporarily, that you really have to do things you don't like because you really need that. Okay. Now, usually there is always a way out of that, but you might face a situation like it. Um, However, in general, I think that when you are not a good leader, when you are not inspiring people, when they don't believe in what you do or what you believe in anymore, you will know it because they're not going to be there. They're not going to be there when you ask them to. They're not going to be there when you need them, when you need them to. And that would be a very loud sign to how you will know. You will know immediately.
All right, fantastic answer. There are many more questions, but it's 5:19 now. We got to stop the Q&A. But Andreas, if you can stay till the end, maybe
I
after
will.
the session,
Yeah,
we'll unmute them and they can ask you that question. If you
absolutely.
can do that for us, thank you. Thanks a lot,
Definitely.
Andreas. And now I'd like to invite our program coordinator, Pro, RYLA co-chair, Karthi Palanisamy, for a word of thanks to our speaker.
Hey, thank you, Andreas. I like the way you addressed attitude and values to your life journey. You know, from a young boy in Greece, trying to be a mad graduate and then trying to be a failed groupie, uh, and then going into advertising. And I think that your entire session, to me, is a few things stood out when you talked about people, product, and profit. I think two strong characters stood out for me, which was your integrity and empathy. And I really enjoyed the manner in which, at every point of your leadership values and attitudes, you brought your mom into play, right? And it basically shows how your life journey basically created where you were. I mean, you ran four large, huge media agencies and brought them to success. I personally think that after your stint at Star, you had nowhere to go but run your own consultancy. So that's my own, Well, for some of you who don't know, Andreas was the CEO of Star Group, which is the largest English-speaking daily. So, and he was the first ever non-Malaysian to even head Star. So it was a huge, big thing for us in the advertising industry when he said, "Why the hell did Star appoint a foreigner?" you know but that's Andreas. I think in essence your entire session today brought me to remind me of this saying when people say, when drinking water, always remember its source. I like the way you talked about your life journey. I like the way you talked about your mother's influence into all the things, how family is important, and how empathy and integrity was such a big, huge part of your life as you go. So thank you very much, Andreas, for sharing your thoughts, sharing your values,
Thank you.
all of us here. So on behalf of all the participants and the Rotary District, thank you very much, Mr. Andreas Vogiatzakis.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, Kathy.
So Bernard, can we have the certificate,
Thanks,
please? And Karthi, would you like to present the certificate to Andreas?
Oh, this is a virtual, but this will be sent to you as
Oh,
a
wow.
certificate appreciation
Thank
from,
you.
from all
Oh,
of us.
great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andreas. Thank you, Karthi. Next in the program will be assignment tips by our RYLA program coordinator, Shirley.
Thank you, Raj. Dear participants, every session we always have this segment for assignment tips. If you remember, in November, we talked about the assignment as in general and what were our expectations. In December, we touched on the video presentation and what we would expect out of your video presentation, the pointers that we will be looking at. And this time round, we are going to touch on Rotary, because you do need to know a little bit about Rotary. It is relevant to the assignments that you're going to get towards the end of RYLA. All right. So the area that I'm going to touch on is none other than Rotary's area of focus. And we have 6 areas of focus, which is basic education and literacy, maternal and child health, peace and conflict prevention or resolution, disease prevention and treatment, water and sanitation, and lastly, economic and community development. Now, what is this area of focus? Basically, these are the areas for all Rotarians to focus on when we consider doing any service or projects for the community. We are trying to be very narrowed in our focus. It doesn't mean that we do not do projects or activities out of these 6 areas, all right? But this is the 6 core areas where all Rotary clubs focuses their service and projects on. And so hence, it's also important that you need to understand about Rotary's area of focus. Now, come 1st of July 2021, we're going to have an additional area of focus, and it's none other than supporting the environment. So come 1st of July 2021, we have the 7th area of focus, where we are actually looking at supporting the environment and of course on sustainability. So for today's session, I'm going to touch on the first 3 area of focus, and next week I will touch on the remaining area of focus. So let's go on the first one, which is basic education and literacy. So what is basic education and literacy at the community level? So Rotarians around the world, we are involved in projects that improve education for all the children and adults. And what do? We build the capacity to provide basic education and literacy for all. Now, this includes children and even adults. They're working to reduce gender disparity in education. This is quite apparent in countries in Africa where females are not given the opportunity for education, and even some parts of India for that matter. Providing scholarships related to basic education and literacy. And these are some of the samples of the projects that we have done, project types that it falls under this area of focus. The use of technology, where if you refer back to our district, right now we are actually having a student a laptop project, because we know that because of the pandemic, most of the classes are now online. But however, children who come from B40 category families can't afford laptops or even PCs at their homes. So what Rotary is doing right now is we are actually providing laptops to these children, and it doesn't stop there. We even give them a data access plan. So, we're not just blindly giving a laptop, we give it with the internet so that these kids can then do their online classes. And this is specific for the Form 5 students to prepare them for SPM. So in that laptop also, we actually have installed an application that allows them to do revision for SPM also. So this is just one sample of a project that's currently running now in our district that falls under this category. We also have adult literacy. So it doesn't stop at only educating children. We also look at educating adults. We even provide teacher training. So train the trainer, and we equip the teachers with the right information, with the right knowledge, so that they are better equipped then to educate the children. Curriculum development, and even water in schools. There are schools in countries like the Philippines, India, Africa, where they have no clean water source at all in schools. So Rotary clubs have come together providing clean water resources at schools so that the children are kept healthy while they come to school. And of course, also girls' education. This is very apparent, especially in third world countries where girls are deprived of education. So these are just some of the project types that fall under this basic education and literacy. The second area of focus is maternal and child health. So for maternal and child health, it's all about saving mothers and babies. So what do we do? Some of the projects that are being done by the Rotary clubs around the world and even here are community level and antenatal care and childbirth services. That includes promoting good nutrition, preventing HIV transmission, and frontline health work training. Also, our signature project under Rotary International is to eradicate polio from the face of the earth, and that's where we are providing the vaccination. Soon, COVID-19 also will be part of what we are going to be doing too, in terms of the vaccination. Then we have local and culturally sensitive support of reproductive health programs, including family planning services. So we create awareness to the community through all these awareness programs. And also underage, as in below 5 years old, child health projects, immunization, treatment for malaria, measles, AIDS, diarrheal diseases, and other childhood killers. So the kind of project types that come under this category, like I mentioned, we create a lot of awareness and trainings to the community, give them better knowledge on reproductive health and family planning, child health care, provide education, best practices, and training. So these are the kind of project types that come under this category of area of focus. And the last one, which is the third area of focus, the peace and conflict resolution and prevention. So at the community level, what do? We train leaders, including potential youth leaders, to prevent and also to mediate conflict. If you do a bit of research, you will find out that we have a program called the Peace Scholar that is under Rotary that gives opportunities to youths to actually attend this, to get this scholarship, and there are opportunities for them to go for a 1-year program to learn to become peace mediators and scholars. And then after which they come back and serve the community and country in regards to this. Supporting peace building in communities and regions affected by conflicts. You may ask me, Malaysia is a very peaceful country, so this may not be applicable, but you're so wrong. Because when we talk about supporting peace building communities, one key project that comes to mind that happened 2 years back in our district, and which we are very proactively working with other NGOs, is in regards to providing education to the refugee community. So we actually had a peace conference where we gathered a couple of NGOs and we strongly voiced out our points and opinions, got it documented and handed over to our government to consider. So not only we listed out what were the issues that's being faced in the refugee community, but we also provided solutions for the government to consider in eradicating these issues, the ills, the social ills that are happening in our community. Supporting studies for career-minded professionals related to peace and conflict, like what I mentioned, the peace scholars. And so yeah, that's it. I think I got kicked out. Dr. B. Sorry, Dr. Bernard, you need to go back to my slide. So having said that, I have touched these 3 areas of focus. Now, why am I doing that? I'm just creating awareness for you. But after having said that, what is your part in this? All right. So which is the next slide, Dr. B? Okay. Next one again, Dr. B. Okay. I can. Now I have the remote for this. Okay. All right. So like I mentioned, peace building and youth, training, mediation, scholarships for marginalized groups. So what do you need to do? Having said all this, so I've touched only on 3 out of the 7 areas of focus. So what we expect out of you is to expand your knowledge now in these areas. do further research to understand and learn about our areas of focus. How do you do that? Yes, the internet is a powerful tool. So please do your research. You will be amazed at the information that will be given to you once you Google this, and you can you'll be exposed to all the different types of projects that are run by the Rotary clubs all over the world and even here in Malaysia. So be aware of the Rotary projects in these areas of focus locally and internationally. Put your thinking cap on. Jot down ideas that you may have in relation to these areas of focus, which you think may be suitable to be incorporated for the local environment. All right. Why I'm asking you to do this now? Because don't wait until the end and then you're scrambling to do more work. So, it's good to start now, have a better idea, so that towards the end, when you get your assignments, it is much easier for you. So having said that, thank you very much. I hand over back to the MC.
Thank you, Shirley. And what's next? I think it's group photograph. Mr. Host.
I'm going to stop share and open a gallery view. Can everyone switch your camera on? Okay, switch your camera on. I'm going to
Mishalini, Millie, Hema Rupini, Clarice, Shashwin, and Ryan.
Okay, ready, 1, 2,
You guys
3.
can switch on your camera. It's the first time we'll have 100% video switched on session.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, first one.
Okay, 4 more.
Yeah, two more. Okay, relax first. Let me just copy.
Oh, there's a closing remarks. Sorry. I'd like to invite our RYLA organizing co-chair, past District Governor Kiranjit Kaur, for her closing address.
Thank you, Raj. Friends, I know we are really looking forward towards a bit more slot, a bit more time with Andreas. Andreas, on behalf of Rotary in Malaysia and the 2,000 Rotarians that's tuning in and also supported this program known as the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards program. We'd like to thank you for coming to our session today. And this month, on February 23rd, we will be 115 years old. It's an international organization that has brought forward all business and leaders. And you could see one of our important aspects is to pay it forward in promoting, empowering youth. So this is one of our programs, and we have something called Rotary, where we encourage youth to come and join us for leadership and also for professional development. And I think the special part about today's program, Andreas, is like you, with COVID last year, this committee, with the support of Rotarians in our district, put our heads together, and we wanted to have something different where we could benefit more young people, more talented young people that you see on screen today and who's following us on Facebook as well. And we did not want to leave out Rotarians because getting the pool of speakers that we've managed to with the help of the committee here, the Rotarians that's worked hard beyond what they need to do by putting us together, has been able, I think, to change the way we look at things. And I must say that listening to you, sharing your 55 years of journey has also inspired me today. The power of we is stronger than the power of me. And I think that's what we could see in changing the lives of how we Rotarians also are able to serve the people around us better. And I hope the participants today take this back with you, that Rotarians, and of course, the valuable time that we have with our speakers, we want you to share this with as many people as possible and also be able to share our values, our mission, and of course, be the stars that you are. And we hope to see you excel. There can only be 50 at the end for our in-person camp. We hope that every one of you will be able to give it your very best shot. Thank you so much to the team that's putting this together, our RYLA organizing committee, and on behalf of our governor, our district leader, thank you, Andreas, and thank you for all participants for joining us here today. Thank you. Back to you, Raj.
Thank you, our co-chair. Next slide, Dr. Bernard. Yes, my dear RYLA participants, we are coming to the last session on 6th February at 4 p.m. The speaker will be Jen Wong. He's going to speak about build and grow your personal brand. He's an online strategist and quite a well-known guy on the social media world. So don't miss this. And also this is when I assume Shirley will be talking about the other 3 or 4 area of focus, which is very important to your assignment. So don't forget, 6th February, lock your dates. I think that's next week, right? Yep. With that, thank you. Thank you to all our RYLA participants. Thank you very much. And very big thank you to Andreas for your time and sharing. It was a fantastic session, especially the way you answered all the questions. Thank you very much. Hope you can stay back. And there's few more questions left in the chat. So I'm sure the participants would like to hear from you more. So with that, thank you very much, guys. Yeah, in person. Yeah. Thank you very much. And to our RYLA participants, your assignment is coming up. All the best wishes to qualify in the top 50. Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Have a good Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are we having questions?
Actually, I have one question, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Yeah, so Andreas, thank you very much. First of all, I just wanted to ask you, actually, it's one question, but combined into 2 questions combined into one. Given your experience, you worked with major media companies in the Asia Pacific region and even in Europe. And so, I thought the next step would be, obviously, you had a lot of, opportunities and chances to actually set up major, your focus could have been strategic or, more like PR, all those things that you could have helped many companies in their communications, but you decided to move towards, giving back, training, development, and, behavior change, NLP. So I just wanted to know the change of heart there, and also in terms of what's your main focus now in terms of what drives you now?
Right. Great question. Thank you for asking that. It was, like I said before, it took a while to really come to grips with it and say, okay, enough, just go and do it. It was mostly about going back to corporates and all that. Tough time, to be honest, last year, where it's not that easy. So everybody was putting everything on hold. I would have no clarity on how the markets would move. So instead of just sitting there and waiting and doing nothing, I thought this would be the time to really try it. But I was, how can I say, I was grappling with the idea of how can you really do that? The thing is this, right? Once you decide to do something, that you have to go at it head on, full force, with everything that you have. And that was really what I was struggling with for a while. And so I came to the point that it was no more debating. I'm a very analytical person, so I have to think about it and think about this. But if I do that, what about this? And if I do that, what about that and the other? And if you fail this, how are you going to do that? And so it was a little bit silly until I got to the point and said, no, that's it. You do it and you dedicate everything you have to in it. What will happen next year or what will happen later this year? I honestly don't know. All I know is that right now, at this very moment, I'm giving absolutely all my attention and everything I have to really build this. Build this business, which not only is very close to my heart on what it does, about purpose, about leadership, about empowerment, about training and coaching, but also to it as a business, right? And so making sure that it's profitable, making sure that it's healthy, make sure that it's sustainable, and make sure that it grows. What will happen later on? Only time will tell. But then again, I think that if we don't fully focus on the present and do everything that we have to, it's not really going to happen the other way. I'm making a couple of plans on how to really scale and expand the business, which are going to unfold within this year. So we will see, but it was all about really coming to the point that it was no more debating. Uh, you, you cannot debate any longer. You just have to just do it, right? And that's how it really happened.
Thank you, Andreas. It shows that also you love investing in people, and obviously people development is something very important to you, for you to focus there. Thank you very much. We'll be in touch.
Anytime.
Yeah, anyone else with a question? Sorry, we couldn't pick your questions earlier, so you can unmute and ask Andreas yourself. Very shy young people.
Well, I already asked my question earlier, but I just wanted to thank Andreas personally for inspiring all of us youth and, just providing us an
Thank you.
insight and inspiring all of us in our lives to believe that we can achieve what we set our mind to. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. You're very welcome. And I'll tell you something, and I say that with all the humility and with a lot of thankfulness. Every time I do this talk about leadership and my life journey and all that a lot, especially with a lot of university students. Every single time, like today, what I get back, I cannot put it in words. The questions that everybody's asking that make me think a little bit deeper. Your reactions and that welcomeness, it really builds a very different dimension to this journey, and I cannot put it in words well enough. So I'm thanking you. I'm thankful for you guys being here and getting this opportunity to talk about these things. I don't think my life has been extraordinary at all. I don't think that my journey has been so significant. I have my arms, I have my legs, I'm okay, I'm healthy. And you see other people like Nick Vogiatzakis, for example, who has no arms, no legs, no this, no that, and now they have an amazing life. And you say, hey, when these guys can do what they do, shut up, pick up your pieces, and get on, because you can do it better. I say that to myself all the time, but then again, we forget, right? So I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to just rehash that and re-look at myself in the mirror. It's not easy. So what you provide is exactly that, the mirror that I can see, and I can rejuvenate that courage, because it's not easy out there, I tell you. So thank you.
Hi, Andreas. I have a question.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi,
Firstly, I
Danny.
just want to say thank you for your sharing session just now, because it's a really meaningful sharing session in terms of the values that you link to your own personal life, the attitude in terms of leadership in your life in general. Just want to say thank you for that, because it really speaks to the heart. Yeah. But I have a question for you, because like in your opinion, like you mentioned just now, that it's very easily for us to get into our own ego mode, like our own defense mechanism when it comes to leading a team. So in your opinion, how can we actually like practice learning to accept our ego, so that we can still consciously choose to always take the effort to lead and live by our heart, like what you just mentioned, but not with our ego?
Wow. Excellent, fantastic question. And I don't even know, Danny, if I have the answer for it. Ego is a good thing. If you don't have a healthy dose of ego and pride of what your worth is and what you're good at, then it's going to go on the other side where you think that you are not good enough, that you are not smart enough, that you don't deserve it. And that's bad. So ego is not bad. Ego is good. Like fear and like greed, they're good things. They are fantastic allies to our journey. The question is the balance, right? How much of it? And not only how much of it in general, because you cannot say I will be 45% egotistic and 55% a good leader for the others. It doesn't happen like that because it depends also on the situation, right? So there is not one clear answer. I think that in my take, the only way to be able to manage your ego and really put it into perspective according to the circumstances and the situation is self-awareness. Self-awareness will really give you that. If you know who you are, you know your limitations, you know your strong points, you know when you're good, when you can connect, when you screw up, and you know what drives that. If you have that honest self-awareness and also that vulnerability to accept what you're not good at and to ask other people to tell you. Not know if you're familiar with the Johari window, for example, but it's your blind spot, your window that you don't even know. If you have that self-awareness, then it'll be fantastic. Then you will be able to do that. Then you will be able to leave your ego at the door. And it will always be there, but you will be able to control it and manage it. So you get into a meeting and you keep on reminding yourself, I'm not going to talk first. Let them talk first, genuinely. And sometimes, even if you don't very deeply, honestly believe so, but you actually do it and you do it again and you do it again, then the results themselves are going to start changing your inner thinking and your inner belief on what is and what isn't. It happens always like that, and have that openness to really practice it. So number one is to be self-aware, to be in that level of awareness that you can realize that. It's like the 4 levels of competency, right? You are unconsciously incompetent. You suck and you don't know it. You are consciously incompetent. Ooh, now you realize that you're not good at it. Then you become consciously competent. That means you're good at it and you know it until you become unconsciously competent. That means you're so good it becomes your second nature. And that jump from the first to the second is very critical, right? Once the penny drops and you say, ooh, I'm doing this wrong, then what are you going to do? If you have that conviction, that self-awareness that allows you to do that, then you can be vulnerable, you can ask others. Not everybody, you're not going to go and ask your enemies, do you think I'm good at this? You will ask the people you trust, that you know they love you and they want your betterment, right? And then you will work on it and you will try to manage your ego. But it does start with self-awareness, and it's different at different situations. It's just up to you how to manage that level. Does that make sense? Answers your question a little bit?
Yes, thank you very much for sharing. Yeah, thank you.
Great.
We'll just be open for one more question because we also need to close this session. So if anyone has a question, we'll just take the one final question before we conclude.
I do have a question, Andreas.
Okay.
So you have been moving across different places, 3 continents and 6 countries to be precise. And you mentioned something like live and do something you love, essentially embracing change. So what do you think of, say, quitting or letting go of something secure in the midst of a pandemic to pursue a big change in life? So this change is, let's say, for instance, immigration for better quality and better quality of life and career. What do you think of it? Is it too risky, or just go for it?
It is very. By the way, when June, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for the question. Great question. Difficult question, and a question that to answer it, it might be risky to say yes or no, because if I say yes without knowing the background and your particular situation or the person's particular situation, and you say yes, quit it, you might be giving the absolutely wrong detrimental advice, and vice versa, right? It really depends on the situation, and really depends on what are the circumstances that engulf that individual's life. What are your responsibilities? Is there a family involved? Is there not a family involved? Is it an individual decision completely? I don't believe that everything is good or bad. It's both, right? So in crisis, there is opportunity, and in opportunity, there is crisis. That's it. And not everything that happens is always rosy. I had so much complaining from many of my Malaysian friends. Look at me. I'm not Malaysian, but I chose this to be my home, and I still am, right? Are we perfect? No. Which one is? It's all fluid and it changes. What is good today might turn out to be bad tomorrow, and vice versa. So it really depends on the circumstances and what really you want to do. What is your vision? Your vision, your purpose will drive that. Does your purpose and your vision can get fruit, come to fruition here instead of abroad? If yes, then why leave? Are there any other factors that are driving that? So it really depends on your very, very personal circumstances. And even if you decide to do that, either you stay or if you leave, none of these two decisions are going to be easily executed, right? None, because nothing will be without challenges and without you having to sacrifice something. Life is not that easy. It's beautiful and we love it, but it's not without it, without the challenges that it brings along. So you might want to leave, but you might go somewhere that you have to start new, and you have to really prove yourself, and you have to build the infrastructure and everything that you will need as essentials to build on. You might decide to stay, and you might have to fight the system, the way things are already, and that you need to do it differently. So it really depends on what is your purpose, what is your why, what drives you to do what you really want to do. I look, John Wong, who is going to speak next Saturday, fantastic guy, amazing, a great friend of mine actually, and an incredible individual. If you see what him and his team have done and they have accomplished, it's incredible. They have done unthinkable things. There are many stories like that, success stories. And I can also cite you stories of failure, because not because of the environment, but because they had no clarity on what they really want. If you are clear with what you want, if you are clear with your purpose and your why, the rest is going to be easy. It's just a matter of doing it and finding your way around the obstacles that you're going to find either here or abroad. So it's not an easy answer, because it needs a lot of understanding on what are the circumstances surrounding it. But no matter what, it will boil back down to that. What is your purpose? What is your why? What is really that you want to do?
Appreciate your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andreas, for your patience answering a lot of these.
Thank you.
But we really have, because we have another one at 6 o'clock. So hence,
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you for having me. Stay safe. Stay amazing. Have a great weekend. You can follow me on LinkedIn. You can go and contact me through amvplus.com. I'll be available for any question you might have at a later point, okay? Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Andreas.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andreas.
So much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.